Right, so moving on to the grade C questions then. This is utility bill, always worth a lot of marks, can be quite confusing, but if you practice them enough and you're disciplined in how you do it, it's fairly easy marks really. So let's take a look at this one. So we've got an electricity account. He pays for his electricity by monthly direct debit, so he gets a discount of £24.25 for paying in that way. Use the information given on the account to complete all the missing entries and to calculate the balance in Mr. Jones's account. So what we have to do first of all is work out how much electricity he's used in this period. He started, his meter reading was 7354, and every unit that he uses then clicks on that meter reading as far as 9734. So the first thing we have to do is work out how many units he's used. So the units used is going to be new meter reading 9734, take away last meter reading 7354. So 9734 take away 7354. So he's used 2,380 units of electricity. So on your table up here, units used 2380. Now every one of those units he's used is going to cost him 11.25 pence. Now this is where most people go wrong with these bills, is that they get their pence and their pounds muddled up. Okay, so it's important that you always work in either pence or pounds, and it's more manageable if you work in pounds. So if you're working in pounds, the first thing you have to do is to turn 11 pence or 11.25 pence into pounds. So if it was just 11 pence in pounds, that would be 0.11. So 11.25 would be 0.1125 pounds. Once you've worked all that out in pounds, everything else now you're going to be doing is in pounds, and it's, you know, you're going to be hard pushed to go wrong. So the total cost of his units is going to be, that's how many he's used, that's how much each one costs. So costs of units, I'll write it down here, is going to be 2380 times 0.1125. So 2380 is still on my calculator, times 0.1125 equals, so £267.75. So he's got to pay that. It's got a quarterly charge of £27.40, so that's on top of however much he uses. So if he used no electricity, he'd still have to pay that £27. So the total charges are going to be the £267.75 plus the £27.14. £294.89. Now he's got to pay 5% VAT. 5% is going to be 0.05, 5 pence in pounds. So cost of VAT would be 5%, which would be 5 pence written in pounds, times the bill, which is £294.89. That's still on my calculator, so times 0.05, £14, and then if we round that to 2 decimal places to the nearest pence, it would be 74 because the third decimal place is less than 5, so it rounds down. So VAT is going to be £14.74. So the total that he has to pay is the £294.89 plus £14.74, but he's got some credit left in his account from the previous bill, so that's going to be taken off his bill. So it's going to be £294.89 plus £14.74. So it's that plus that, and then take that off. He doesn't have to pay that because that's already in his account. £21.37. So his bill is going to be £288.26. So that's how much he's got to pay, but then he's already credited this amount. So he's already got that much credit for paying by direct debit, and then those 3 credits as well. So they're going to come off his bill. So it's going to be less 24.25 less 85 less 85 less 85. So there's £9.01 left, which is going to carry over. He'll have to pay that out of his next bill. Okay, and that is what he needs to clear. So quite a complicated question, that one. You're going to get 1 mark and a method mark for correctly getting this, for correctly converting the units, taking them away and multiplying together. So of the 6, half the marks are going to get that, because that's the most complicated bit. You've got to do a subtraction to find out how many units. You've got to correctly work in the right either pounds or pence, and then turn it into pounds there. Then you're going to get another method mark and answer mark for the working out the VAT and working out the total to pay. So you then got 2 marks for getting down to the £288.26 and a final mark for getting the right balance carried over. So 6 marks for that, total for the page 11. Probability game question. Table below shows the probabilities of Jim obtaining yellow, green, blue with 1 spin of the spinner. Complete the table by inserting the probability that Jim obtains red. Well, for that game, the total chances of you getting any of the colours would be 1. So in order to work out what red is, we need to take these values away from 1, and what's left is the chances of you getting red. So I'm writing that down, so I'm showing the examiner I understand what I'm doing in case my fingers end up hitting the wrong button on the calculator. So 1 take 0.26 take 0.24 take 0.37 is 0.13. So that's what goes there. So 1 mark for the method, subtracting from 1 mark for the answer. In a game, a player chooses 2 colours on the spinner and wins the game if either of the colours chosen is obtained with 1 spin of the spinner. Which 2 colours would you choose to have the best chance of winning? So you would want to pick the colours with the greatest probability. So certainly blue, and then the next greatest would be yellow. So yellow and blue. Find the probability of obtaining either green or blue. Well, green or blue That's the chances of getting green. That's the chances of getting blue. So the total probability you would get by adding 0.24 and 0.37 together. Which is 0.61. 1 mark for yellow and blue, 1 mark for adding them, 1 mark for the answer. The price of a digital radio priced at £132 is increased by 12%. Calculate the increased price of the digital radio. So 12% you would write as 0.12 times 132 will give you how much it's gone up by. So 0.12 times 132 is £15.84 increase. Now read the question. Is the question asking you how much it goes up by, how much is the increase, or does it ask you how much the new charge is? Well, it's asking for the increased price, so that's how much it's going to cost you. So increased price will be what it was originally plus how much it's going up by. So it's now going to cost £147.84. There's going to be 1 mark for the percentage and the value of the increase, and 1 mark for then getting the final price. The next one looks horrible, but with these new calculators it's really straightforward, because you type it into your calculator exactly as you see it. You use the fraction button there to make the top and the bottom. On the top you type exactly what you see, 4.5 times 3.4. Then you move down to the bottom of the fraction and you put in 7.8 take 5.9. So it looks exactly on the calculator as it does on the page. Press equals, turn it into a decimal, and it's that, and you want the answer correct to 1 decimal place. So 1 decimal place is the 0, but you look at the next digit along. If it's 5 or more, it rounds up, so that's going to be 8.1. So you get 1 mark for 8 point something, 1 mark for the correct rounding. Total for the page, 510. Okay, question 19, prime factors. Okay, so the way that you work out prime factors is by repeatedly dividing by prime numbers. So the easiest prime number to start with is 2. I can divide that by 2 and get 12. So 2 times 12 is 24. I can divide 12 by 2 and get 6. I can divide 6 by 2 and get 3. All of those are prime numbers, so I can stop dividing. So 24 can be written as 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 cubed times 3. So that's 24. Now I repeat that with 54. Start with 2. 2 goes into that 27 times. 27 isn't a prime number because 3 goes into it 9 times. 3 goes into that 3 times. All prime numbers, so 54 equals 2 times 3 cubed. So 24 times 54 can write as 2 cubed times 3, which is 24, times 2 times 2 cubed. I can simplify that because I got 2 cubed, sorry, that's 3 cubed there, isn't it? 2 cubed times 2 is 2 to the power of 4, and 3 times 3 cubed is 3 to the power of 4. Now the fact that you need to know is if all the powers are even, then they're square numbers. It's a square number. So if that was 3 to the power of 5, it wouldn't be squared. If that was 3 to the power of 6, it would be a square number because all the powers are even. So the final thing that you need to say is all powers are even, so square number. So you need to know how to break a number down into its prime factors, and then you also need to know, and it comes up every so often, that if once it's in its prime factors the powers are even, it's a square number. So you're going to have 1 mark for the method of breaking down the factors, you're going to have 1 mark for 24, 1 mark for 54, and then 1 mark for explaining why it's a square number. Prime factors, products of prime factors are on the Jones & Son website. It's a fairly easy method. If you just watch what I've just done and then go and practice some, you'll get those marks very easily. Okay, explain why this 5x cubed plus 2x squared plus x equals 20 has a solution between these two values. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out if I put x equals 1.4 into this, what answer I get. So I'm going to be doing 5, and then where there's an x, I'm going to put a bracket. Where there's an x, I'm going to put a bracket. Okay, so I'm writing it like that, and that is how I'm going to type it into my calculator. Okay, so I'm going to do 5, where there's an x, I'm going to put a bracket. Now for cube, you need this button here, x, oops, can't see it on the screen, sorry, x with a little square above it. You press that, and then you put a 3, and again, it looks exactly as it is that I've written it. You need to move the cursor then across to bring it back down, and then I'm going to do plus 2 bracket 1.4 close bracket, and x squared has got a button all of its own, plus open bracket 1.4 close bracket. So it's written exactly as I see it there, and that gives me 19.04. So the value of x is 1.4, out comes a number which is smaller than 20. Then I'm going to do 1.5. Same thing. Instead of writing the x, I'm going to write 1.5 in a bracket. 1.5 in a bracket. And this should now give me an answer which is bigger than 20. So cancel that. 5, open bracket, 1.5 close bracket, x to the power of button 3. Move it back down. Plus 2 open bracket 1.5 close bracket squared, plus open bracket 1.5 close bracket. 22.875. Bigger than 20. So if x is 1.4, gives you an answer of 19 something, and 1.5 gives you an answer of 22 something, the answer must be somewhere between the two. So that's smaller, that's 20, so x must be between those two. So that's the method, that's the explanation. There's 2 marks there, and it would be for showing that one of the answers is below, one of the answers is above. So then we're on to the final question on the paper. It's worth 6 marks. It's a nasty looking question, but let's see if we can break it up. So I've got this wedge shape, okay, which is got a uniform cross section. So the cross section is the triangular face. If I cut that along that triangular face, however many times I cut it, the triangular face will have exactly the same area. So in order to find the area of cross section of a prism, you need to know the area, in order to find the volume, you need to know the area of the cutting face, the cross section, and multiply it by the length. So I need the area of triangle ABC. Now area is half the base times the height. Half the base, so half of BC, times the height, which is AB. I know BC, I don't know AB. So I've got to work out AB somehow, and it's a right angled triangle, and I know 2 of the sides. So I need to use Pythagoras' theorem, Pythagoras' rule, to find AB. So I need to use Pythag. Now, the way to remember Pythag, in case you haven't practiced it yet, is you've got to use the squares of the sides that you know. So I know it's going to be that squared and that squared. So 5.3 squared and 2.8 squared. And the only other thing you need to get your head around then is, are you going to be finding the longest side in the triangle or a shorter side? If it's the longest side, you're going to be adding the squares. If it's a shorter side, you're going to be taking them away. So I'm needing to find a shorter side, so I'm going to have to take those squares away. So first of all, on the triangle, just deal with it. So 5.3 squared, 5.3 squared is 28.09. 2.8 squared, 7.84. So I'm going to have to take those squares away because I'm trying to find a shorter side. So AB squared, which I don't know, is going to be 28.09 take away 7.84. Okay, so square the sides, then decide, am I adding or subtracting? I'm trying to find the shorter side, so I'm subtracting. So 28.09 take away 7.84. 20.25. That's the square. I've then got to find AB, which is by undoing the square, which is a square root. So I've got to do the square root, which is that button, which I pressed off the screen, sorry. So this is the square root button here. So press that, that comes up, and underneath there I want to write 20.25, press equals 4.5. Right, so I now know that that height AB is 4.5. So now I got everything I need to find the area. So area of triangle ABC is a half times the base, which is 2.8, not the squared, 2.8, times the height, which is 4.5. And again, with the snazzy calculators, I can write that exactly as I see it. Fraction button, half times 2.8 times 4.5, 6.3, and the units would be centimetres squared for area. Okay, so that's really all the hard work done. I'm just going to finish this off now. I know that the area of this triangular bit is 6.3 square centimetres. I'm now going to multiply that by the length of the prism to get the volume. So it's going to be 6.3 times 3.5. 6.3 is already on my calculator, times 3.5 equals 22.05, and then the units of volume will be centimetres cubed. So that is quite a complicated question because of how you need to think your way through it. Okay, you need to know how to find the area of a triangle. You need then to recognize that you need the height, and in order to do that you've got to use Pythagoras. That gives you what you need to work out the area of the triangle. And then you also need to know that to find the volume of a prism, it's the area of the cross section times the length of the prism. So 6 marks for that question. 2 marks will be for finding the side using Pythagoras. 2 marks will be for finding the area, and 2 marks will be for finding the volume. Total for the page 12. And that's all in that paper.